I love the title of this video because I feel like in many areas of life, this is the antithesis of what I think. I lean quite heavily into the logical, rational part of things, and while I don't think that's opposed to feelings at all, if they do oppose, I will generally give the benefit of the doubt to the reasoned out argument. If you're new here, my name is Jarle, and Early Owl is about learning to make changes that stick. As I mentioned in some of my recent videos, I've been going through a period of some weeks where I haven't been sticking to my commitments as much as I would have liked to. And then today I just had a really strong sense that I was done wallowing in my own mediocrity, but I also realized that I can't just put in one heroic effort right now and then kind of expect the motivation to stick. So instead, I decided to put some of my efforts into some introspection and trying to get a better understanding for why these last few weeks have not been ideal. So the answer came to me basically right away as soon as I was thinking about it, which is that I've lost my sense of why. I still knew what my purpose was. It was more just that I had lost the feeling. And this is where the facts versus feelings come in. I could have just been like, okay, now that I know the answer, the problem should be solved, right? And I can just get to work. But I realized when it comes to making changes or improvements like this, it does not come down to knowing, it comes down to feeling. It's not about getting new information. You're not going to find some new piece of secret knowledge, and then as soon as you start applying it, everything changes. Where I think almost all significant changes come from is to get a deeper understanding and appreciation from something you already knew. This is why when I realized what was going on, I didn't just stop thinking and start trying to implement. I instead tried to just hold on to the feeling of the realization and just try to hammer it home. I was trying to have a one-track mind on this problem, both figuratively and literally, as things started to click together for me. A EDM remix of Seven Nation Army was playing on some stream I had open, and I felt like this song became kind of part of the mindset that I had going on, and I didn't want to have any distractions, and also didn't want to lose the current kind of thinking I was going on. So I just took the song, put it on repeat, and just turned off all other distractions. I basically just had this session where I was just drinking a bunch of coffee. I lay in bed for a few hours, then I lay in a bath for a few hours, then I went for a walk for a few hours. And I just had this song playing, and I was just thinking about the problem, thinking about the realization I had, trying to put these pieces together and kind of trying to feel them and trying to internalize them as much as possible. Because when I started to think down this path, I could sense that I was kind of ready to make a change, but the change wouldn't just happen with me knowing it. The change happened with me feeling it. And the only way to feel it for me was just to really go deep. And then as I was writing the script for this video, I started to realize that a lot of kind of my watershed moments in terms of making improvements followed a very similar pattern. Basically just starting out with a simple idea that on its own doesn't feel that groundbreaking. And it feels like it's just falling into place in a particular way where I get the sense that just following this idea has the chance to actually change how I behave. And I can think of several scenarios like that where I still have quite vivid memories of where it happened and what I was thinking about. So to just name some examples, the first time I had the thought that I wanted to do something after Liz passed away and I wanted to make the game, I was in a basement in America. It was the day before her funeral. I just got the idea suggested by a friend, and it was like a simple idea on the surface, but it just hit different. And I was just pacing around in this basement for like hours, just like running it over my hand, running it over my head. And I realized that this was going to be a significant course change for my life. I have two examples from books that I mentioned in a previous video. When I was reading Peak Performance, I was on a flight to Houston to be with my family for Christmas. And some way through the book, I started to realize that I was just kind of internalizing these lessons on a different level than what I normally would do. And that this was really important for what I was trying to do right now. So I was just super focused on the book throughout the entire flight, and I just reread several passages, and I took a bunch of notes, and I wrote down a bunch of things about my thoughts around it on my phone. And lo and behold, that led to significant impacts in my life, and it led to me making a lot of changes that stick to this very day. With deep work, I was kind of in the bathtub when it started to sink into me what I was reading and how I should process it. But from there, I think I just stayed in the bathtub for like 1 to 2 hours reading, and then I got out and I finished the book. And then I got onto my computer and just wrote a bunch of notes about how I wanted to implement this into my life and my thoughts around it. And again, those are still lessons that I sit quite deeply with today and which still has a lasting impact on the choices I make. I think the formula for me basically comes down to getting a feeling that I'm appreciating an insight a bit more deeply than before. And it can often be something quite obvious. And then just honing in on that feeling and just focusing on it, and usually either just sitting down and thinking or pacing around and thinking thinking or going for walks and thinking, and just like no distractions, thinking about it as deeply as I can, and then also doing a lot of writing, trying to get down your thoughts on paper on what this insight means and how you're going to implement it. Because I think it just comes down to sometimes our mind is more receptive to an idea than other times. And when that time comes, you just need to try to make the most of it so that it's a lasting change, instead of just being like, well, I guess that's right, and then just moving on with your life. I also think, to me, that in some of these cases, music has been a part of the process, mostly just because you can put something on repeat and it just keeps that vibe going and also blocks out all other distractions. So it just helps you laser focus on this one piece of thinking. Another aspect which I think can be a part of these insights is that they will usually come when you're in a not great place about what the insight is about. So if you're, for example, fed up about your health or your fitness levels, then you might be primed to be reading a book about why fitness is important. And you're then more likely to be able to make something out of what you get out of that book, instead of just having the information wash over you without being able to make any changes from it. What I would summarize this video as is, if you're trying to make a change in life, is, first of all, don't expect the change just to come from new information. You more than likely already know what you need to know. You just need to understand it better. If you can feel like you're in the process of getting a newfound appreciation for something, like you're reading a book or you're listening to a podcast or you're just having an idea, then do your best to not let go of that feeling. Follow it as deep as you can and just keep holding on to it and write about how it inspires you to change, instead of just having the thought and then letting it go. I think what has made these changes stick for me is that I've been very deliberate about being obsessive over them for like a few hours, instead of just having the insight and then just feeling it for a little while and then just putting it away. I just try to think about it and think about it and think about it until I'm completely exhausted. This is one of those videos where I'm not sure if this is something that nobody else ever goes through, or if this is something that is completely obvious to everyone else. But at least for me, it is something that I hadn't really thought about in this way before, but now that I've kind of seen this pattern, it seems quite obvious. I will link to the video about the actual insight I had, which I was obsessing over for hours and hours, which is basically the importance of having a why when you are trying to do something difficult. Hopefully some of you will get some value out of this video and be able to internalize things a little bit better next time you have some useful insights. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next Wednesday.